Dragon Ball Daima. Episode 1 has recently come out, so I think it's only fair to do something which, now that I think about it, I've never actually done on the channel before, and review the first episode of this show. Now, personally, I would prefer to do reactions to these episodes, but to be honest, my facecam setups are just wonky, and I'm not familiar enough with VTubing to really consider that quite yet, so instead, we'll just go ahead and review each episode in detail once they come out. But before I go ahead and get started, since I've never actually talked about Daima in depth before on the channel, I think it's fair to go ahead and just give a small brief overview of what Daima actually is. So basically, for anyone who isn't familiar with it, Dragon Ball Daima is a new series related to the story of Dragon Ball. So think something similar to Dragon Ball GT or Dragon Ball Super or other projects like that. However, when it comes to Daima, there are certain things that make it more significant in terms of the timing of its release. For one, just in case people come back to this way down the line, Daima is premiering in October 2024, so right now we're celebrating the 40th anniversary of the series basically premiering to the world. So back in 1984, that's when the manga began for Dragon Ball, so it is kind of crazy to think about, we're now celebrating 40 years of having Dragon Ball in the world, and Daima to that end serves as this kind of celebration or commemoration really of this achievement. Aside from that, there is another reason why Daima's timing is so special, but this is a much more tragic and, to be honest, a much more painful reason to really delve into. But as many people, if not everyone already knows, the creator of Dragon Ball, Akira Toriyama, passed away earlier this year back in March. And as I bring this up, I just want to say again, rest in peace to Akira Toriyama. We love you, we miss you, and overall just thank you for what you've given to all of us around the world. But with his passing now, Daima now exists as one of the final projects where Toriyama has blessed us with his creativity, imagination, storytelling, passion, and just love for Dragon Ball. And to be honest, I was already intrigued to see Daima when it was first announced a while back, but I'd be lying now if I didn't say that everything that's happened since then has made seeing Daima now even more significant for me and something that I just had to see as soon as possible. With this all said, now we're ready to go and talk about episode 1 of Daima, but before I start going into my list of notes and whatnot, first thing is first, if you guys have not seen the episode yet, pause this video, go watch the episode, then come back, because I will be talking about spoilers and giving info from what happened in the episode itself. So if you want to avoid those spoilers, again, final warning, pause the video, check out the episode, then come on back and let me know as well in the comments, what did you guys think about the episode? Now let's go ahead and get started, and right away, the first thing that caught my attention with this episode was that this was a 30-minute episode actually, and this may not seem like it's an important thing, but this was actually a nice sight for me. I figured, the episode would be around 25, maybe 20 minutes even, since this is just the first episode, and it will just have exposition and try to whet our appetites really, but the 30 minutes was a nice surprise, and they definitely made sure to maximize the value of the 30 minutes in my opinion. I mean, within the first few minutes, right away, the story focuses on this brief recap of Goku's story, and by extension, the story of Dragon Ball up to the Majin Buu saga, which we expected because we already knew beforehand that Daima was going to be taking place sometime around, if not after, the Majin Buu saga. So this was basically confirming that right away within the first few minutes of the episode. At this point, we then start to transition to what is the Demon Realm, and for those who don't recall, this is the realm where characters like Dabura and Towa come from. So we're now inside the Demon Realm, watching the events of the Majin Buu saga unfold alongside our antagonists for the story, Goma and Degasu. Now, I'll talk about Goma and Degasu in greater detail as the story kind of progresses, but basically for the next 7 to 8 minutes, we go through this process of recapping the Majin Buu arc with really high quality animation, and many of the main story details are covered in this whole recap, including the revival of Buu, the death of Dabura, and also the ultimate end of Kid Buu at the hands of Goku and the Super Spirit Bomb. And throughout this process, Goma and Degasu basically serve to add exposition on top of these events. This includes them even pointing out things like Shin, the Supreme Kai, being in fact Degasu's older brother, and as Degasu describes, the Supreme Kai is a far more nosy upright in comparison to Degasu, and also Degasu interestingly shows this level of disrespect towards mortals similar to Zamasu, but to a much lesser degree, I would say. Also, aside from that, we also notice that with the death of Dabura, this now results in Goma becoming the new king of the Demon Realm. Now, let me just say this real quick. We don't exactly know what Goma's relation to Dabura is. They could be siblings or just something else entirely. but clearly Goma is very puny compared to Deborah, so this leads me to think that Goma is not really a fighter like Deborah, but he is probably more similar to Babidi, where he has powerful magical powers, but obviously only time will tell. Maybe we'll see this later in the show. Also, through the recap, we can see that they are scared, really, by the return of Boo, noting how this basically means Babidi means to not only take over the outside world, which is our Universe 7, but also the Demon Realm and other realms too. And once they see Goku defeat Boo with the Super Spirit Bomb, they are even more shocked by what our heroes are capable of. They have never heard of Goku or the others before, so seeing what they're capable of has got them just going bonkers. They're going crazy seeing what is happening in front of their eyes. On top of this, they're also just taken aback seeing several Namekians on Earth, obviously Piccolo and Dende, along with the Dragon Balls, and Degasu even points out how they must have escaped to Universe 7, which actually suggests early on that they were not from Universe 7 to begin with exactly, but they do touch upon this later in the episode, so I'll kind of save it for that moment. Now with the recap over, they start to celebrate really, as all of the threats to their power like Babidi and Boo are gone, when suddenly Dr. Aransu, which is I believe how you say her name, enters, and she's immediately pointed out as the older sister to Degasu, which means she's also the sister of the Supreme Kai as well. Yes! Now from here, we get more information on who she is, and right out the gate, the conversation transitions to her research progress, kind of cementing the fact that she is a scientist and she's really about her research, as her name kind of suggests with the title. But also we hear from her how Deborah's leaving to the outside world was interesting and caught her attention as well. Now, I really want to key in on this because, to be more specific, what she actually said was that it is unlike Deborah to go to the outside world, which begs the question, why did it even happen exactly? Was he already under Babidi's control and then forced out, or did he go for another purpose? I mean, regardless, it's not too relevant, it would seem, since Deborah is, dead. But still, it is an interesting question that she brought up, and we may see some reasoning behind it down the line, or maybe we won't, but still, it was a very interesting thing that caught my attention in the episode. On top of this, however, Goma also points out that Deborah is the one who allowed for Dr. Aransu to do her research, and that may no longer be the case going forward. Now, this is where we start to see some of the manipulations being done, because Aransu starts asking what will happen if Goku and the others decide to come to the Demon Realm, now that we've been shown that they are more than capable of defeating and surpassing Majin Buu in strength. Now, we as the audience already know, Goku and the others, they couldn't care less, but it's just enough to convince Goma that something should be done just in case. So after Aransu leaves to her business, it would seem, Goma then suggests that he and Degasu use the Dragon Balls in an effort to turn the heroes into children so that they will be far weaker and no longer threats. Now, while this idea is being thrown out, Degasu out of random also points out the fact that the Demon Realm basically has in fact its own set of Dragon Balls, 3 Dragon Balls to be exact, and each of them are guarded by a very strong Tamagami, and as it will be later pointed out in the episode, it is because of them that the actual Demon Realm Dragon Balls have not been used in quite a while to make a wish, which is a really interesting thing to see. But Goma is insisting instead to sneak to Earth and to use the Dragon Balls there, since it will be much easier to acquire them. And aside from this, Goma also notes that his second wish is to get the evil third eye, which is essentially an item passed down among the Demon Kings and in fact lost during the reign of Deborah's father, Demon King Abura. And the reason why this item is so important to Goma, as he explains, is because the item will give the user insane power once placed on the forehead. So that is why Goma wants to get the evil third eye with his second wish. Now, with their plan explained, they get ready to set off and put their plan into motion, but Goma also decides to take a Namekian in the Demon Realm alongside with them, known as Neva. Now, Neva is described as being a Namekian who is slightly senile, but still an expert with the Dragon Balls, and as they leave, we also see Glorio, who is a gunman from the Demon Realm, apparently eavesdropping on the whole conversation, but that's something I would say to worry about for future episodes, really. Now, I'll talk more about Neva in a moment, but the one thing I do want to emphasize right now is just like how Dende is responsible for creating the Earth's Dragon Balls, Neva was also the one who created the Demon Realm Dragon Balls as well as the Tamagamis to protect them, so that is something worth noting. Now, as Goma and Degasu pick up Neva and begin to leave for Universe 7, we learn a few key things. For one, it would seem people from the Demon Realm are not supposed to go to the outside world. Now, why exactly is that? Again, we don't know for sure, but it doesn't seem to hold any serious issues quite yet. Aside from this though, a more important piece of information is revealed, which is that soon after Babidi and Deborah left for Earth from the Demon Realm, Dr. Aransu followed, leaving Degasu and Goma in the dark, and clearly all three seem to be the antagonists of the story, but it also does feel as though Aransu is pulling all of the strings and is a far worse threat in comparison to Goma and Degasu. At this point, we now go to our heroes, who are celebrating the return of Earth as well as Trunks' 9th birthday, so happy birthday to Trunks. But overall, it's a nice scene, fun jokes are thrown around about growth spurts, and we actually see Kibito and Shin are back, separate from one another. What? What the fuck? Now, what's interesting about this is in Dragon Ball Super, we saw them separated there, but they explained then that they undid the Potara fusion using the power of the Dragon Balls, while this time around, they explained they actually had Majin Buu ingest them and then spit them back out so that the magical gases from Buu's body would undo the fusion. Now, this may be a weird kind of retcon choice, maybe it's just added lore, but to be honest, it's Kibito and Shin, so I don't think anyone really cares for the most part, but it is still some interesting kind of lore. From there though, we get into the fun stuff with Goku and Vegeta moving up to the skies, ready to spar and throw hands once again, and as they go, we once again see how great the animation is. The animation has just been fantastic for this episode, not just for all the new shots for the episode, but also just reanimating all the older kind of moments with the Majin Buu arc and older parts of the story. So the animation for this episode, it's just been so top notch. There's just not enough praise I can say about it. But also with Goku and Vegeta fighting, we also hear this subtle instrumental version really of the Daima theme, and it's just so good. I love the Daima theme personally, but the instrumental version, that's a chef's kiss. I love the instrumental version so much. And as they're continuing to fight, we then transition to the lookout, with Dende and Popo basically just watching everything go down, when all of a sudden, Goma's ship just pops out of thin air. I thought he would do a crash landing or something, but nope, just pop right out of thin air. There he goes, showing up at the lookout. And from here, there's a lot of interesting and important things that happen, including the fact that Dende's Namekian ancestors are revealed to have originated from the Demon Realm, as indicated by their ears being pointy. Now, this is an interesting way to distinguish them, but also this does mean there is another layer of meaning to the name Demon King Piccolo, of course from OG Dragon Ball, so I'm not gonna lie, this is actually really cool. But aside from that, Goma is revealed to have agreed to extend Neva's life by 1,000 years if he retrieves the Dragon Balls, since Dende is obviously not willing to do so himself. And from there, we just see how powerful Neva truly is, as he's not only able to quickly determine that the Dragon Balls are stone after just being used, but he's still able to pinpoint all 7 of their locations and bring them all to the lookout at once with what seems like considerable ease. And even beyond that, he's even then able to restore the power of the Dragon Balls well before they should be ready. So yeah, Neva is just built different, and honestly, I'm hoping that we see Dende develop powers like that, but also it makes me wonder, what was Kami doing? Maybe I'm misremembering, but I don't remember him doing that, or maybe it's just that he didn't want to do so, but considering Neva is an old Namekian, considering Kami is an old Namekian, I figured Kami would have some of the similar powers, and maybe I'm forgetting what he did, but it just makes me wonder what he was up to in comparison to Neva, obviously, in that sort of situation. And it's just kind of really interesting there. But either way, regardless, Goma and the others then summon Shenron and get ready to make their wishes. And while they're doing so, Shin and Kibito are the only ones alone to sense an odd presence about the whole kind of situation. But it still doesn't really matter, as Goma still gets his wishes granted, turning all of the adult heroes into first graders and all the children like Trunks and Goten into babies, which is where the episode ultimately ends. Now, as a whole, I understand that I'm going to have a lot of bias towards this show, just being a Dragon Ball fan and a Dragon Ball content creator. But right now, if you were to ask me to give you a score, I would say this episode is definitely a 10 out of 10. I think for the intro of a new show, it hits all of the marks you want it to. It gives a nice small recap of the story, it adds a great deal of exposition and lore, which expands upon a rather interesting aspect of the world, which is the Demon Realm. And there is this sort of intrigue really, because you obviously wonder what's going to happen next, but also within the episode, you wonder, are Goma and Degasu the ultimate baddies, or is Dr. Aransu the real threat, pulling the strings from behind the curtain? And you also wonder, how long has she been doing so perhaps? So there is a level of intrigue really for the show going forward, which is really awesome to see. Now, I do agree, there wasn't a great deal of fighting other than what we saw through the recaps and the small sparring session with Goku and Vegeta. But we'll see fighting down the line, no question. What really mattered was making fans have a reason to want to know more and to see more, and I think this episode hit the mark on all cylinders, and I certainly am so excited to keep watching this story, and I hope a lot of you guys are excited as well. In any case, that is going to be where we end the review for episode 1 of Dragon Ball Daima. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to show your support by dropping a like down below and subscribing to the channel, and also comment down below again, what are your guys' personal rankings for the first episode of Daima, and let me know why as well in the comments down below, and feel free to check out some of the other vids on my channel. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.